Den gikk fra en ungdomsfest midt på natten lørdag, ble funnet på søppelfyllinga 30 timer senere.
Han är kall, han är beräknande. Man tror att han är intelligentare än polisen.
Jag är glad för att det var du som blev tillkallt.
Du hade masse blåmärken bestandig. På armarna, på halsen, överallt.
Tanja har ett förhållande med en äldre man. Äldre än jag.
Hva er det som gjør at ikke du informerer meg? Vi er nødt til å samarbeide her.
Jag skjønner fan ikke svensk. Jo, ikke jeg heller.
Det er noen som lyver her.
Vänta!
Den som synder sover ikke.
Hello, welcome to Movie Uppers. My name is Bob Sham.
My name is Angela.
The sounds you hear may be dogs. You're listening to NPR Movie Humpers on NPR.
I was going to tell you that.
I feel like my voice, if you were putting me on NPR and be like, Bob, I need you to present an NPR story, I would have a set, but it would still be my voice. I would be a lot more focused on it, a lot more deep.
Yeah.
But could you imagine my dulcet tones on NPR? I think it'd be a way better than guys who talk like this and
hey
and
guys,
like this,
hey guys,
and the whispery tone, the non-threatening. I don't want to trigger you. What about a voice like this that tells it to you straight? That's going to tell you you're fucking This American
You have
Life
a
story.
good voice.
I have been blessed with that, and I can tap into some dulcet tones when I need to. I know this.
When we first started dating, I definitely bragged to people that you read to me. That was a big that was a big check in the yes column.
Well, I mean, it's weird to brag. It's because you don't know how to read. So I guess you left that part out. Yes, Movie Humpers. We're taking a European vacation all month long. We got 4 drops this week because this is a special Thursday drop because tomorrow is Friday the 13th. We have a 6-pack episode discussing the first 6 Friday the 13th movies. And they're not very good, but we had fun. We have fun with them.
We always have fun with the scary movies. Even when they're shit, we can usually find something to laugh at.
Yeah.
If not truly enjoy.
We can still have a good time. It doesn't have to be artsy fartsy all the time.
So on this day before Friday the 13th, we're going to talk about what probably is our 13th Stellan Skarsgård film.
I like my man Stellan.
I love him, and I can really identify with this movie.
Because you don't sleep.
I don't sleep enough ever.
I feel like my sleep gets weird too. I do feel like you go crazy when my sleep is off. We're talking about the 1997 Norwegian film Insomnia.
Not the 2002 American film Insomnia.
No, that one stars Al Pacino and Robin Williams. But people like that movie. I've never seen it, but people like it. Insomnia from 1997, the debut film from Erik Skjoldbjærg. Written by Erik Skjoldbjærg, and Nikolaj Frobenius. Starring, I'm doing the best I can, Stellan Skarsgård, I know I got that one. Sverre Ousdal, Bjørn Floberg, Gisken Armand, Maria Bonnevie. Cinematography by Erling Thurman Anderson.
What if you found out tomorrow that he prefers it to be Stellan Skarsgård?
I probably would still screw it up 10 times before I would get it right. But that would be of no maliciousness.
Of course not. We love him.
Stellan Skarsgård. As punishment, I'll watch his masturbation scene in Nymphomaniac over and over.
I'd rather watch his sex scenes from Breaking the Waves.
And that scene where he's paralyzed. Oh, that shit was fucking hot. When he gets paralyzed, I was rock hard. Insomnia. This is for Mr. Skjoldbjærg's debut. Well done.
This was a debut?
I said that earlier, like about a couple of minutes ago. It was a long time ago, but I
don't always listen, I guess.
I relate to that. If you get up close to the Arctic Circle, up by it, then you're going to get times in certain places where it's just sunlight. They call it the midnight sun, where it's sunlight for days Some areas even months.
I love it when a movie takes advantage of that particular crazy thing that none of the rest of us experience living anywhere else in the world for horror or thriller. It so makes sense because it feels otherworldly. It would have to. If you went there and it was nighttime constantly or daytime constantly, either one, you're going to think you're losing your mind.
So Tromsø is the city, and I guess it's high enough in Norway that it gets midnight sun. On the more habitable places in which midnight sun occurs, it happens for several days. I know in Alaska they have, that movie 40 Days a Night.
That's what I was thinking of, yeah.
I mean, it's a great concept, right?
Yeah.
But this is the opposite here. And if you're up full on the tip north of the Arctic or Antarctica, then you'll get midnight sun for months in some areas, which is just kind of cool. It makes me want to experience that. But much like our lead character, Jonas Engstrom, is played by Stellan Skarsgård, I probably wouldn't sleep very well, and I'd probably get really kind of half fucking crazy. I don't think I'd do half the things he does in this movie, but I would feel crazy.
One of the craziest things he does is take down a pretty good window block that he has built up with a shade and some tape and puts up a see-through blanket.
Yeah, it seemed like he did
Put it on top of it.
He is losing his shit.
He is losing his shit. He is, in every aspect, making his own situation worse than it has to be. Every turn he makes, everything more difficult on himself.
Just reactive, almost panicked responses. He just can't think anymore. But he and his buddy, Erik Vik, played by Sverre Ousdal. I felt confident saying that.
That sounded good.
They're in this Norwegian police unit called the Kripos. Think of it like federals, right?
They came in from Sweden, right?
Well, they came in from Oslo, and our lead, Engstrom, is from Sweden originally.
And so a lot of people try to act like they can't understand him.
And there's some politics regarding Swedish cops carry guns, but Norwegian ones need special permits for specific situations to do so.
And they don't assume that dangerous people will be armed necessarily.
Well, we're very American. I don't necessarily think that cops need to be carrying guns into every scenario.
No, but if you're going to potentially approach someone that you think is a murderer, the fact that person had a gun shocks them. We didn't know that he would be armed. Well, why wouldn't he maybe be?
Maybe be.
Maybe.
A girl has been beaten to death. Yes, it's very sad. And so they've come up to investigate this situation. And I think what's interesting about this movie is that it actually gets solved about halfway through. The mystery of solving the case isn't really the thing. It's about the madness of this environment and the sun never going down and what that is like. But this movie also made me think of Michael Mann's Manhunter. Yeah. Well, especially when, you got those peak blues when they're walking through the fogs and they're hunting for this guy. It's got that Michael Mann blue. But then at the tail end when it fades back onto his eyes, because remember the mirror killer?
That's creepy
from Manhunter.
Fuck.
I feel fairly confident that
last image
some
of this
Manhunter was watched before this one. I mean, this movie is quite disturbing.
It is. It also is such an interesting study of someone making all the wrong decisions to where it backs him into a corner where he finds himself covering for a murderer.
Do you think he's always this shitty, this character? Or was it just this environment, this place, this midnight sun that drove him over to the edge?
I think he goes crazy in this town because everyone who approaches him at the beginning says, "We're so glad you're here. We've heard you're the best." His partner that he comes in with, they've been working together for a year and they seem to have a good relationship. I don't think he's a bad guy and I don't think that he's normally this crazy. I really do think that he is losing his mind from not having slept for days and days. It's a week almost.
The entirety of his trip here to where the case is officially by the book solved, he has not slept. We don't see him sleep. We see him trying over and over, but he does not. They work together and they find this bag and they realize that they can take the contents of this bag that used to belong to this girl and where they found it. And if they put it back where they found it, and then they make a report we're looking for this specific bag.
We think something's in this bag that will help us find the killer.
That will entice the killer to put the bag back or go and get the bag. And so they're staking it out, and it looks a little too obvious, but a guy in a hood does come around and they pick it up. There's kind of a doofus cop that hangs around them that I think like slips or something like that. And the guy sees that they're monitoring him, so he starts to run.
He knocks over a fucking thermos of tea. I mean, it's really nerdy.
And he goes into the shed, and they go into the shed, and there's a tunnel, and they follow him through the tunnel. So he tells his partner, like, you go up the coast and turn left once you get to the end. And they got everyone spread out. And he hears this gunshot, right? And the doofy guy takes a shot in the leg. That is from the killer, the guy that they're chasing. Mm-hmm. And then he goes up the coast, and he sees he sees someone ahead, and they take a shot at him. Like, he does get shot at by this figure, and it bounces off the rocks, and he shoots back. And he's not supposed to have a gun, right? And neither is the person who's shooting at him. But his buddy doesn't have a gun. So it was the killer that shot at him, right?
Yes.
But he didn't know that.
Right.
So the figure comes up, and he shoots, and he ends up killing his partner.
I think they were both going after the killer, but it was just a mistake, because the killer later does tell us that he saw him, he did shoot at him, but when he rose back up, his friend was there. His friend went the wrong fucking way. The last thing his friend said to him was, you said go right.
Yeah.
You said right. That's so fucking tragic.
His last words are him like gaslighting his friend who just saying, like, that's not what you said. It's like, literally, that's what he said, and you're dead because you didn't do what I asked.
I know that.
And he brought a gun, too, and it led to him shooting his partner.
Well, and he does this thing where he actually gets, the killer had thrown their gun.
It's a revolver. He picks it up.
That gun. So he has his own gun and the killer's gun. And he says that the killer killed his friend. And what was interesting to me...
he's ready to talk about what happens, but when everyone starts to gather around and they see what happened, everyone is just like, the killer did this, the killer did this.
So he kind of goes along with it.
He goes along with it. And now this movie becomes his desperate bid to keep them from finding out that he shot his own partner. And there's this lady that he works with who doesn't really...
She's from there.
Giskin Armand. She's from the area, who doesn't really buy his shit.
No, I love her.
But there's no evidence that...
It's weird, though. It's weird that this is a case that they are investigating, and everyone thinks the murderer killed this man. This doesn't just become part of the case. She launches a completely separate investigation into Vic's death.
Like internal investigations.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, yeah.
She figures out that it was him. She doesn't tell him, but he does some fucked up shit to hide the fact that he killed that man. Like, he
shoots a dog with the killer's revolver, because he never reveals that he has the revolver, and he digs the bullet out of the dog. And then he sneaks into the evidence locker and replaces the bullet they pulled out of his partner with the one he dug out of the dog, which is dark as shit, but quite clever.
Clever, but it's fucking dark.
There's also this lady that works at this place in which he stays. I think it's like the hotel,
it's like
right?
An inn or hotel, yeah.
And she seems to really like him, but he's so fucking frazzled and weird that she gets the ick from him at some point. But she says to him, like, this man who seems kind of very... She describes him as though like a happy type man, an older man. And even though he's losing his shit, he seems to know that was the fucking killer.
She said he was smiling too much, as though he were nervous.
Yeah.
So he did try to appear jolly and nonchalant, but she could tell there was something weird. So he had tracked him down to find him. He
figures out who she was connected with, this writer guy, by this friend of hers who... Not a very loyal friend, but he gets her into his car, and he fucking molests her, essentially.
It's not okay.
And
that's fucked up.
And then it's like something snaps him out of it, like he realizes he's lost in his own madness, and he's like, oh shit, but he like kicks her out of the car. Well, he threatens her and shows her where they found the body and shit, and that's how he gets the information on this guy that she would go see.
It was this author, John Holt.
And it's not some big misdirect. It's actually kind of simple how to connect the murder case.
He calls and leaves the guy a fucking voicemail.
So he goes and meets this guy, and the guy knows that he's been trying to cover up what he did because he saw him shoot his partner.
It's also completely obvious to the viewer of the movie from the very beginning, he's wearing the same fucking jacket.
Yeah.
The green jacket with the hood. He had it pulled up in that scene. We didn't see his face, but it's the same coat. There's no second where they want you to think that he didn't do it.
They make this decision together to pin it all on the girl who was murdered's boyfriend at the time.
And it's because this murder has something on him. It's the you can't tell on me because then I'll tell that you shot your partner.
But what's interesting is that the murderer of the girl, he kind of says what the viewer is thinking regarding him because it was a total accident. He says, this seems completely ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Like, you didn't do it on purpose. You might have some sort of reprimand here, but I don't see you losing your life or anything over this. But the guy is driven in madness through not only lack of sleep, but this was his friend and partner that he was close to, and he is racked with guilt.
Absolutely.
He really can't face the fact that he is the reason his partner is dead.
Well, and that female detective actually gives him not only the opportunity to change his statement, but the out he needs when she says to him, hey, I heard he'd been having trouble with his memory, that he had been messing things up, but he felt this loyalty to his friend that was dead to automatically say, no, he was a good cop. He was fine. No, he wasn't. He heard you wrong. You also had a witness. That dumb man heard you say go left to that guy. He could have backed you up. It would have been awful, but it would have saved a lot of time and a lot of grief and a lot of framing of a teenage boy. It
was just so interesting to me that the killer himself was like, you don't really have to do this.
And then he tried to say, well, mine was also an accident. I never fucked that girl until that one day, and I didn't mean to kill her. She started laughing at me.
Yeah.
So he couldn't get it up. He couldn't get it hard, so she laughed.
So they plant the murder weapon in the bed of the kid. He manages to sneak into this house, into the kid's apartment, and he plants it after the kid comes in and starts sleeping with that girl he molested. The lady who's investigating this, who's seeing through a lot of bullshit here, this little Arctic Circle midnight suntown seems to have a lot of infrastructure, doesn't it? I don't think these towns really beg to be very, populated. You know what I'm saying? These type of towns. But the lady who's doing all this investigating is making note, and I thought this too, is like, unless that kid touched that revolver, there's not going to be any fingerprints on it.
And she said there were no fingerprints, but there was a fingerprint on the barrel.
Yeah, like something like a partial fingerprint.
Or on a bullet that was in the barrel.
Which could actually have the actual killer's fingerprint on it.
He's trying to warn the killer to run, and the killer starts running before he can even warn him because he and the woman are going to her apartment.
The killer is
his apartment.
The killer logically so thinks that he's going to turn on him at any moment because that is the thing that makes the most sense. But the killer, he starts to run, and they're in this like rundown wooden.
Yeah, why did you go to fucking ruins and not the train station?
The killer, like he falls through.
They take turns falling through the ground.
Yeah, and then he breaks through this rotted wood in this little harbor house, and it's actually kind of a dope fucking scene, or like a dope shot, because the killer like breaks his fucking neck or something. Like,
it's the back of his head on a beam.
And he flops into the water, and it's a great shot where Skarsgård's just looking down, and you see him like, the killer's like alive and gasping, but you can tell he can't move his body, and you see the waves just like sink him and start to drag him away, and the camera shot comes back up to Skarsgård looking down, and it's like he's on like a dolly or something, like he just slowly rolls back.
That's so weird.
It's kind of like, weird. You ever see that Homer Simpson gif where he slowly goes back into the bushes? It's kind of like that, but it looked really good.
Yeah.
So with him dead, they can match that fingerprint, and everything that they did up to that point can just be like, oh, well, I was just wrong. You're right. It was just this killer guy.
It's just a mystery how that gun got in the kid's bed, and who the fuck knows?
And the investigator lady, she's not buying it, and she reveals that they found like a spent cap that would come from the revolver from the killer, and the cap that shows that is from a Swedish gun. And of course, he's Swedish, and he's got his old weapon from when he served in Sweden.
But she sits it on the table next to him and walks out of the room because it's over.
She knows there's not really going to get much out of pursuing this. She understands they got the real killer, but she just wants to let him know that she knows.
Yeah, she's fucking cool.
She is a good character.
I would also like to defend that young girl. That I know she was maybe not a good friend to the dead girl, but she was in love with that girl's boyfriend, and that girl was cheating on the boyfriend. And so the whole issue, the reason the girl ran away that night apparently is because the friend told the boyfriend that he was being cheated on.
Yeah.
There's
which was
also
true,
an implication of someone beating her up, but we still don't know who. Probably that man.
Well, the killer beat her up.
Yeah, well, they tried to say that she always had bruises, but she was seeing him regularly.
She was seeing him pretty regularly. So yeah, it was him. Unless she beat herself up. Insomnia from 1997 by Erik Skjoldbjærg. Pretty good little neo-noir crime thriller. Like I said, it reminded me of Michael Mann in it reminded me of Manhunter. And I can't be mad at anything that reminds me of Manhunter. So give it 1 through 5 each combined for best out of 10. I'll give it a 4. Because I just like movies like this.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a 3.5.
7.5 for Insomnia.
Stellan Skarsgård just has this thing where at any moment he could fuck you or kill you. He's so good. Like the second he got into that hotel, I could tell that girl would have sex with him. And then there's a super tender moment between them, but then he all of a sudden is gonna rape her.
Yeah, he's a little too much. Check it out. Where am I here? We got a lot of movies in the can. Insomnia by Erik Skjoldbjærg from 97 is in between the movies In Bruges by Martin McDonagh.
Appropriate.
And Larry Cohen's It's Alive. It's at least as good as those movies, if not better.
Sorry, I laughed directly into the microphone. I just love It's Alive.
Yeah, that one's fun. What do you think of Insomnia from 97? Have you seen the American version? How would you compare the two? Check the shows for links, other places to find us. Like, subscribe, leave a comment telling us what you think about the movies. Have you seen them both? What do you think?
Have you ever stayed up for a week without sleeping?
Not on purpose. I guess drugs help. A lot of people with addiction issues probably have. Eventually you will die if you don't sleep.
Do we know how to say goodbye in Norway?
No, you'll just have to borrow from the French.
Arrivederci. That was not French.